Welcome to Nationwide on the network service of the NTA. I am Habiba Oladipo. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control (NCDC) has announced 381 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. A breakdown shows that there are 183 cases in Lagos, Kano 55, Jigawa 44, Zamfara and Bauchi 19 each, Katsina 11, Borno has 9, Kwara has 8 and Kaduna 7, Gombe 6, Ogun 5 and Sokoto 4. Others are Oyo and Rivers 3 each, Niger 2, Akwa Ibom, Enugu and Plateau 1 each. As at the 7th of May 2020, there are 3,526 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 601 discharged with 107 deaths. The Kogi State government has directed that the NCDC COVID-19 response team currently in the state to assess and verify the free status to be isolated at the state quarantine center for 14 days in line with the laid-down procedure. Governor Yaya Bello gave the directive while playing host to the NCDC members shortly after their arrival in Lokoja. Francis Udojo tells us more.
Governor Yahaya Bello, while reeling out the recent measures in the state, said, having gone through the experience and effective control of Lassa fever and yellow fever, the government in its wisdom provided the people with relevant information and sensitization programs as well as medical equipments and guidelines that are in tandem with that of the federal government and the National Center for Disease Control in containing the spread of COVID-19. In addition to this, he said, the provision of 3 isolation centers, web application for self-check against COVID-19, deployment of over 239 health personnel to wards of the state, toll-free emergency numbers for rapid response. These steps he attributed to the zero COVID-19 case.
Myself, my officials, our wives and children are in Abuja there. I told them nobody should come here to Abuja, to Lokoja. Myself, I am not going anywhere. I stayed back here because it is part of the protocol. So we have to keep you safely in a quarantine, and then other members of your team. But if it is not desirable, then you have options.
Dr. Noah Andrew led the NCDC team. The mission is to further strengthen the efforts by the state government to ensure that the positive gains in the fight against COVID-19 in Kogi State and the nation as a whole is sustained. Dr. Noah appealed to the people of the state to strictly comply to the federal government directives and medical guidelines. Meanwhile, the NCDC team have been directed to go into isolation for 2 weeks before carrying out their testing and verification exercise. The NCDC team, however, declined to react on the options provided by the administration. From the Government House, Lokoja, Francis Udojo, NTA News.
Legal matters, the Supreme Court has set aside the judicial processes that led to the conviction of the former Abia State Governor, Orji Uzor for corruption. In a unanimous judgment, the Apex Court held that the conviction was inconsistent with the Nigerian Constitution. Olabode Arewa reports.
In a judgment, the presiding justice, Justice Amina Adamu Ogie, said the President's Court of Appeal erred in law when she granted leave for Justice Mohammed Idris to return to the Federal High Court in Lagos and conclude Orji Uzor corruption trial. The Apex Court subsequently directed the Chief Judge, Federal High Court, to reassign the case to another judge for a fresh trial. The appeal was filed by Ude Jones Ideogu, a former finance director, Abia State Government House, challenging his conviction and imprisonment along with ex-governor Orji Uzor. While Orji Uzor was sentenced to 12 years imprisonment, Ude Jones Ideogu was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment.
The judgment that convicted them is null and void.
There has never been any valid proceedings against them in the criminal trial, and as such, they are going to be released.
There is nothing we can say. The Supreme Court is final. Whatever the decision of the Supreme Court is, everyone has to abide by it.
They were both found guilty of 7.1 billion naira fraud. In Abuja, Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
And joining us on Nationwide is Commissioner for Information Kogi State, Kingsley Fanwo, who is going to shed more light on the NCD tax team trip to Lokoja. Mr. Commissioner, if you can hear me, what led to the issue of quarantine of the NCDC team?
Thank you very much. The issue of quarantine came when the technical team from the NCDC and the Federal Ministry of Health visited the strait, and they told us that they were in the state to strengthen our readiness to combat COVID-19. But, you know, the governor of the state took his time to explain all the efforts the state had taken to be able to combat the pandemic, and also told them that the state will be going in line with the World Health Organization and NCDC protocol of ensuring that anyone from affected areas coming to the state is quarantined, and also samples taken to ensure they are COVID-19 free. But the team refused to submit themselves for the test. They said clearly that they are not ready to subject themselves to the COVID-19 test. So we got curious, because if you have come to be able to encourage people to test, why are you afraid of submitting yourself for the same thing? And we got worried also because in Nasarawa last week, one of their drivers was tested positive. So we want to be very sure before you start helping us, we need to be sure that you are free of the virus.
So can you confirm or otherwise if the team is still in Lokoja right now?
No, the team told us they will be going back immediately to Abuja because they are against subjecting members of the team to COVID-19 test. We don't understand why they are afraid of going with the test. And that's a very clear violation of the World Health Organization and NCDC protocols. So NCDC would need to tell Nigerians why their own officials, who have been on the front line of strengthening efforts against the spread of COVID-19, are afraid of subjecting themselves to COVID-19 tests.
So as at now, there's no coronavirus case in Kogi State, but how is the state prepared in the case of an eventuality?
Yeah, for now, there is no single confirmed case of coronavirus in the state, and we are working very hard to ensure no case is reported at the end of the day. We are strengthening our sensitization efforts. We are also strengthening our surveillance effort, as we have surveillance health officers in all the 239 wards of the state. So we are doing all this to be able to police our state against the event of anyone importing the virus to the state. So we are very good to go. And with the
Many thanks, Mr. Kingsley Fanwo, Commissioner of Information Kogi State, for sharing your thoughts with us on Nationwide. And moving on, 19 foreigners involved in illegal mining in Osun and Zamfara states are to face prosecution as the federal government gears up to increase revenue from the solid mineral sector post-COVID-19 era. Minister of Mines and Steels Development, Olamilekan Adegbite, stated this in Abuja.
Economies are bleeding from the attack by coronavirus. Crude oil prices nosediving. Fears of meeting up financial targets are palpable. Even in Nigeria, reverses are made on national and state budgets. Almost all the products in the solid minerals sector have lost their market value except gold. So, the scramble for gold at this period is alarming. In Osun State, 17 foreign illegal gold miners were caught, while 2 in Zamfara State. And this is against Nigeria's mining protocols.
So the recent development is a welcome one, because the state governors, they are the chief security officers of their states. And if the governor decides to move with that kind of heavy force, they were able to apprehend this large number of people. So this set of people that have been caught now, we've asked the states to allow us to prosecute them to the maximum extent of the law.
State governors' partnership on the solid mineral sector commended. So, what financial prospects for Nigeria as crude oil makes unattractive appearance in the global market?
While other minerals might not sell so much because of the lowered industrial output all over the world, Gold, which you have in abundance in Nigeria, is selling very well.
COVID-19 comes with the challenge of a new thinking for the executives to turn the tide of financial flows in Nigeria. Mie Ogede, NT News.
And it's time to join Hinginu in our Lagos Center for more news on Nationwide.
Reports that the returnees on arrival at the returnees on arrival at the returnees.
Sincerely apologize for that problem with Hinginu from Lagos. We'll take a break now, be back shortly with more reports.
I wish to once again commend the frontline workers across the country who, on a daily basis, risk everything to ensure we win this fight. For those who got infected in the line of duty, rest assured that government will do all it takes to support you and your families during this exceedingly difficult period. I will also take this opportunity to assure you all that your safety, well-being, and welfare remains paramount to our government. I am using this opportunity to express our deepest condolences to the families of all Nigerians that have lost their loved ones as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. This is our collective loss, and we share your grief.
Nigerians, coronavirus is dangerous. It can kill. When you see this sign, high fever, cough, shortness of breath, drowsiness, pneumonia, don't panic, don't hide, don't embark in self-medication. Promptly visit the nearest medical facility. Report all cases to the nearest hospital. Prevention is key. Avoid contact with infected persons. Avoid crowded areas as much as possible. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Your life is precious. Stay alive. Live long, live right. This message is sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture and the Nigerian Film Corporation. Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibility.
There is a lot of fake news and report circulating, especially on social media, on the coronavirus. Do not believe or partake in the spread of these fake reports. If it is not on the official website or news from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, disregard such report. Only together can we beat this virus. Only together can we overcome this pandemic. Follow the instructions and guidelines provided to combat this virus. Most importantly, stay at home. Self-isolate, regardless of your status. The virus doesn't move unless we move. Let us work together to better Nigeria. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Welcome, dear. Have you washed your hands?
I'm inside my house again. This thing not the key black man.
I don't know if it's misinformation or poor hygiene that will kill you first. Coronavirus is real, and good hygiene practice will save your life. Anyway, no hand washing, no eating.
I will not take care of it. How's one of the parents? Coronavirus is real and it's on the rise. But you can help yourself and help others to be safe. Remember, we can stop the spread. It's in your hands.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Many thanks for being there. Let's now try to reconnect with Hinginu in Lagos for more reports.
Thank you, Habiba. About 215 Nigerians who were stranded due to the global lockdown caused by the coronavirus pandemic have arrived the country via British Airways. Michael Olale reports that the returnees on arrival at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos were airlifted to Abuja, where they will observe the mandatory 14-day self-isolation. The stopover in Lagos was necessary to enable the British Airways convey some UK citizens to London, while the Nigerian returnees were airlifted by an Air Peace aircraft to Abuja. As the ease of lockdown continues, hike in transportation fare is an issue that has put frowns on the faces of commuters in Lagos. Annie Daniels has details.
A commercial bus driver there calling on passengers for onward journey to their destinations. Until recently, commercial bus drivers were off the roads. However, following the ease of the lockdown, they were asked to operate for a few hours with some conditions, including conveying 2 passengers on a seat, provision of sanitizers for passengers and drivers, as well as compulsory use of face masks by both passengers and drivers.
They carry 3. There's some talk about 2, 1 at the front.
Like before, from Badagry to my 2, it used to be 400, 500, but now it's 800.
We give Abiru, they collect 1.5. We go remain 3,000. The 3,000 now, we go buy for 2,000 now. How much will remain?
All the vehicles we saw were complying with all the laws except the availability of sanitizers. Those motorists says refusal of some passengers to accept sanitizers from drivers is a big challenge to them.
When you give some passengers, they don't like using it because they say at times some passenger will not breathe again.
Meanwhile, at a Balende bus stop, we saw this improvised hand wash station with passengers doing the needful.
National Union has done a very good job because as a passenger, for us to enter a vehicle, maybe we have a dirty hand and want to enter the vehicle, at least it will not be properly for us.
While respondents appreciate government's decision to ease the lockdown, they however advise that adequate steps should be taken to dissuade commercial bus drivers from hiking transportation fares. In Lagos, Annie Daniels, NTA News.
Commuters between Lagos and Ogun states are not having it easy this period of the partial lockdown as the Lagos State Commissioner of Police speaks on its enforcement. Let's join Adeola Komiakere.
The last time I reported on this access, which happens to be the link between Lagos and Ogun State, there was a checkpoint manned by security agents from the police, the army, and paramilitary outfits. It was the peak of the total lockdown and enforcement. The prohibition of interstate movement was intense, with only essential commodities and workers with ironclad permits or identities allowed to commute through this boundary. But with the partial lockdown, the checkpoints are no more.
Strategy now we adopted in our compliance is we have shifted from beggar now to OPIC. So that those who are not supposed to, those who are not entitled to go, we have a turning point there immediately. So those from Lagos that are not supposed to be in Ogun State, we have turning points.
People now move to and fro Lagos and Ogun State, but they, however, have expressed their frustrations.
The transport is too much. If not because of the reason why that they are coming that I should come to Iwafo, I won't even go.
It's not CD they say. As I reach yourself, I know see our market I will go sell for me. Yes, because everything they lock.
Traders are hawking their wares all around the place. And the coming days will definitely, or is expected to replicate the situation during the lockdown period. From the boundary between Lagos and Ogun State, I am Adeola Komiakere, NTA News.
That's it from Lagos. It's now back to Habiba in Abuja.
It's Hinginu. Relevant stakeholders are working assiduously to support the federal government in stemming the spread of the coronavirus in the country, one of which is the development of video teleconferencing application. President Nigerian Association of Engineers, Babangana Mohammed, in an interview said this is to make the administrative component of the COVID-19 containment seamless.
Since the index case of COVID-19 was recorded in Nigeria, the federal government has employed various strategies at combating the spread of the virus in the country. In the light of this, private and public-spirited individuals have been responding positively. President, Nigerian Society of Engineers Babagana Mohammed said the institution has engaged the technical know-how of its members to develop more video teleconferencing applications as means of conducting meetings post-COVID-19.
We all need to face it. It's not only meant for medical workers. No. Engineering is playing a key position in this issue. Engineering is key. So we are going to lead in that direction. As I'm talking to you, I am already looking at the post-management of COVID-19. I have set up study groups. We are working on Zoom, having serious meetings on Zoom, webinar. Nigeria or the world itself will never be the same again.
Meanwhile, on the recent 8-story building collapse in Imo State, Babagana Mohammed said preliminary investigation is ongoing.
And traditional institutions in Akwa Ibom State have pledged to do everything possible to continue to sensitize their subjects on the need to respect government and medical directive on COVID-19. The chairman of Akwa Ibom State Council of Chiefs, Etinyin Solomon Etuk, made the pledge while acknowledging the efforts of both federal and state governments in combating the pandemic. Wisdom Jacob has the report.
The Okwi-Ibom Ibibio Worldwide, Etinyin Solomon Etuk says, campaigns on personal hygiene and the use of protective equipment to forestall the spread of COVID-19 at the rural areas is ongoing. The royal father called on traditional rulers and parents to promptly report anyone traveling into their community to the state COVID-19 team for isolation and testing.
Every village has a town crier. And we pass the message, the paramount ruler will pass the message to the clan heads and the village heads in the respective community, which we did. And as a follow-up, from time to time, we will send message across. We get feedback from these communities on how they are doing.
Etinyin Etuk, who is also the paramount ruler of Nsurubiam local government area, advised the people to support government's effort in fighting against coronavirus.
Our able sons in the community should stand up to provide the palliative to the poor masses in the community, not waiting for government always. But as far as I'm concerned in Akwa Ibom State, we are not doing badly in disseminating the information.
In Uyo, Wisdom Jacob, NTA News.
In a related development, with the increasing number of community transmission across the country, tackling the spread of the coronavirus has become a collective responsibility, with the traditional institutions not left out. Chairman of the Etubom Traditional Council in Cross River State, Etubom Basi Oko Basi Duke, in an exclusive interview with NTA, stresses the need to adhere strictly to the laid-down guidelines, especially with the easing of the lockdown. Umo Basi Edit tells us more.
Etubom Basi Oko Basi Duke is the chairman of the Etubom's Traditional Council, the highest decision-making body of the Kingdom in Cross River State. He chooses to lead by example. The royal father says taking responsibility and exercising caution have become necessary in tackling the dreaded pandemic.
I would advise that everybody, wherever you are, whoever you are, should take precaution, serious precaution on what is going on. This thing has no respect for anybody. We have to practice social distance. That's about 2 meters apart. But it is very unfortunate that when you go around markets, you can hardly find people staying 2 meters apart from each other.
Etubom Duke also had this advice for the elderly, whom he stated fall within the vulnerable group.
Most of us in our age are easily affected. So we have to be very, very, very cautious how we handle it.
He commended the efforts of government so far and sued for more support to help flatten the curve of the transmission. In Calabar, Umar Basadate, NTA News.
And Kaduna Network Center is our next stop on Nationwide, where Zulay is our guide.
Thank you, Habiba. Good evening and welcome to Kaduna. The five-man committee constituted by Jigawa State Government to investigate causes of mysterious deaths in Hadejia local government area of the state has discovered that the deaths had no links with COVID-19, as been speculated. The chairman of the committee, Dr. Mahmoud Abdul Wahab, who made their findings known in Dutse, however, confirmed that they counted over 90 new deaths in the area, though not related to the pandemic. Awal Muhammad reports.
People of Hadejia local government area in Jigawa State have lately been thrown into a state of confusion due to mysterious deaths recorded daily in the area amidst coronavirus pandemic. Worried by the development, Governor Muhammad Badaru Abubakar dispatched a team of medical experts on a fact-finding mission to the area. Within the 2 days given to it, the committee established COVID-19 was not responsible for frequencies in the death, but rather different health conditions.
There's no better evidence of death than the graves where the people were buried. And luckily there are only two cemeteries, two graveyards in the community. So we went there with the assistance of the traditional councils and the undertakers, and we were able to count the number of graves that were made over that 1 week. And we discovered there were 92 graves over that 1 week period. So this is against the allegation that 100 people have died over 4 days.
A questionnaire for verbal autopsy adopted indicates that the cases involve persons from 60 years and above with no travel history. Hadejia is among the local government areas that have not recorded any case of coronavirus pandemic in Jigawa State. From Dutse, Awal Muhammad Kazaure, NTA News.
And as repatriated Almajiris from neighboring states keep increasing the figures of coronavirus cases in Kaduna State, the authorities have tightened enforcement of interstate travel ban at the boundaries by returning erring travelers back to base. Muhammad Umar Ajingi was at the security personnel. He was with the security personnel at Kaduna State boundaries with Plateau and Nasarawa states.
For nearly 2 weeks now, this is how life has been at the entry points. Security personnel grappling to enforce the travel ban on errant travelers. Many understand and return to base, while others insist on making their journeys. At this checkpoint in Zankan village, boundary community between Kaduna and Plateau State, desperate travelers create alternative routes through the forest to beat security checks. On our way to the boundary between Nasarawa and Kaduna State, the enforcement team caught up with these vehicles conveying Almajiris who were being repatriated from neighboring states.
We allowed them to pass through our state because they were holding a valid pass from different state governments in the north, and we have no objection than to allow them.
As the operation continues, many defaulters were intercepted and asked to return to base. The authorities have advised motorists without valid pass to stay away from Kaduna State or face stiffer sanctions. In Kaduna, I am Muhammad Umar Ajinki, NTA News.
And we're back to Habiba in Abuja for more on Nationwide.
Many thanks. More than 70 women groups have received consignments of food items from the Ministry of Women Affairs for onward distribution to the most needy. Momso Damian Datsi reports.
These are leaders and representatives of various women groups from across Abuja gathered here to receive donations from the Ministry of Women Affairs for onward distribution to the most vulnerable in their groups.
The organization trusts you, and that's why that leadership is bestowed on you. I want to appeal to our conscience that in the name of God, let's ensure that all that has been received here reaches the most vulnerable in your organization. Those who have should still add more and give to the needy. Government is me and you. It is not possible for Mr. President to feed every family, but we can assist government by ensuring that we reach out to the poorest of the poor, those in need.
From religious bodies, social circles, civil society organizations, political bodies, and all are gathered here, over 72 of them.
On behalf of the masses and grassroots voters and needy, I say thank you very much to the federal government and through our Minister of Women Affairs. I give the needy, many needy, and two ITB camp. I went to Boari and Pape. They are the only one that federal government didn't give them anything, so I have to go and give them.
Beautiful. I wish other establishments and organizations will do the same, because I know really one institution, one organization cannot meet up, because the crowd, the vulnerable, they are quite a lot, and we pray that whatever they are doing, people will appreciate.
Here with me is Ifeoma Chikeze, who says the palliatives wouldn't have come at any time better than now.
There are families who cannot afford a meal a day. There are families, especially at this trying time, there are families that have experienced battles between husband and wife, family unrest. Many families live by the day.
I want to appreciate Mr. President that even though as we've been locked down in the house, he remembered the women, he remembered the families, he remembered the nation, and today
in Abuja, Momso Damien Dati, NTA News.
And it's time to join Chineye in our Enugu Network Center for more reports on Nationwide.
Thank you, Habiba. Good evening and welcome to Enugu. As the world marks International Red Cross Day, Anambra State chapter of the Red Cross Society has appealed to the federal government to consider the establishment of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs in all the states of the Federation for prompt response to emerging crises in the future. The state chairman of the Red Cross, Professor Emeka Kachi, gave the indication while addressing journalists in Oka, the Anambra State capital. Uchenna Nwekoyo has details.
The Red Cross is a globally recognized non-governmental organization who is at the forefront of humanitarian services in disaster situations. Anambra State Chairman of the Red Cross, Professor Emeka Kachi, said, given the excruciating experiences of Nigerians,
I would sincerely apologize for that mix-up from Enugu. Moving on from here, President Muhammadu Buhari warmly felicitates with elder statesman Chief Alabo Tonye Graham Douglas on his 81st birthday anniversary, joining family members to celebrate the renowned leader who served the country as minister in 4 ministries from 1989 to 2001. The president salutes Chief Graham Douglas for the many sacrifices in promoting good governance in Rivers State, working assiduously as a commissioner for youth, sports and culture before moving to the federal level to serve as Minister of Social Development, Youth and Sports, Minister of Aviation 1999, Minister of Labour and Productivity 1999, and Minister for Culture and Tourism 2000. President Buhari affirms that the former minister left enduring legacies in every position he served in government, particularly in aviation, where he oversaw the deregulation of the sector, making it more market-driven, competitive and accessible for local and international investors. As Chief Graham Douglas turns 81, the president believes his investment in encouraging good leadership, promoting democracy and sharing his wealth of wisdom and experience with younger political actors will always be remembered and appreciated. While congratulating friends and political associates of the milestone, President Buhari prays for more strength and good health for the former minister. The Committee of FCT Imams Initiative is appealing to good-spirited Nigerians to support federal government's efforts in curbing the spread of coronavirus pandemic through donations. This is coming as the flag-off of distribution of palliative to the 6 area councils in the FCT through the support of the present administration of Mohammed Musa Bello. Hawa Gimba tells us more.
Some are going to Jua and some will be going
Chairman of the association, Tajuddin Adigun, in a press briefing there before the takeoff of the trucks to the 6 area councils in the FCT. He said these measures was to ease the sufferings of the less privileged in the area councils. Imam Adigun further called on well-spirited Nigerian Muslims to donate generously to the Muslim community and the FCT.
In the local governments, they are going to meet the committee of FC Imam of each of the local governments. And they are the ones who receive them, and then who are the ones who are going to distribute them.
Leader of the Buhari Area Council, Chief Imam of Al-Habibiyah Islamic Society of Nigeria, Sheikh Fuad Adeyemi, while delivering the bags of food items to imams in Kubwa, advised them to ensure that the palliative gets to the people in the grassroots.
Those of us that Allah put in position to be in charge of this, we should be conscious of Allah.
While expressing their delight on behalf of all imams in Buhari, Malam Abdurrahim Yahya Muhammad expresses his gesture this way.
Those who are here with me, we're going to sit down and then look at the areas and people. They want to be taken to Buhari area, they want to be taken to Dutse, and want that will go into Kubwa here.
Food items donated include 300 bags of rice, 300 bags of beans, and 300 bags of millets. Hawagimba, NTA News.
Leading by example is the idea behind digital conference and prayer session organized by the Nigerian Inter-Religious Council, NIREC, conducted via Zoom, conferencing the main purpose of the weekly meeting led by various religious, government and non-governmental leaders is to promote unity amongst Nigerians of the dominant religions in the country. This week's Zoom's conference, moderated by the Executive Secretary of NIREC, Reverend Father Cornelius Afebu, focused on joint prayers for God's intervention in the trying times of the coronavirus pandemic.
That God in His infinite mercy may intervene and put an end to the pandemic of COVID-19.
Allah, we ask you to spare our people, to spare not only Nigerians but the entire humanity.
Platform to demystify myths about COVID-19, promoting the right mindset and advocating a healthy lifestyle in order to defeat the virus.
Fighting community to respect rule of law, to respect government and the health authority.
And if you want to win a war of this nature, our prayers will be towards the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords.
And heal individuals. We pray for people who are in isolation places at this time.
The National Prayer is organized by NIREC, which is a voluntary association with 50 members from both faiths, in collaboration with the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, and Ufuk Dialogue Foundation. Henceforth, anyone caught refusing to use a face mask in public places in Ondo State will be arrested and kept in isolation center for 14 days at his or her own expense. Abiola Rio reports that the state governor, Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, announced this at the flag-off of the distribution of 100,000 face masks in Akure.
About 400 tailors drawn from the 18 local government areas of the state were saddled with the responsibility of sewing the face masks. Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu said the initiative of the massive production and distribution is born out of the desire to always prioritize the welfare of the people of the state. He said apart from the ongoing distribution of palliatives across the state, premium preventive measures to contain the spread of the deadly virus are also in place.
We will endeavor to ensure that the distribution of these nose masks shall be carried out in such a manner that we ensure that they reach all political wards. It's not meant for APC members. It's meant for everybody in Ondo State.
Governor Akeredolu enjoined the people of the state to follow the laid down directives, reiterating that wearing of face masks in public is now mandatory for residents of the state. In Akure, Abiola Rio NTA News.
And Chinaya in Enugu is ready with her reports from that zone.
Thank you, Habiba, for rejoining us in Enugu. As the world marks International Red Cross Day, Anambra State chapter of the Red Cross Society has appealed to the federal government to consider the establishment of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs in all the states of the Federation for prompt response to emerging crises in the future. The state chairman of the Red Cross, Professor Emeka Kachi, gave the indication while addressing journalists in Oka, the Anambra State capital. Uchenna Nwekoyo has the report.
The Red Cross is a globally recognized non-governmental organization who is at the forefront of humanitarian services in disaster situations. Anambra State Chairman of the Red Cross, Professor Emeka Kachi, said, given the excruciating experiences of Nigerians in the face of the ravaging coronavirus pandemic, governments at all levels should, as a matter of urgency, ensure that adequate measures are put in place for a faster and more efficient response.
The establishment of State Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development in the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. This will encourage rapid response for all disaster management activities and alleviate the hardship of the most vulnerable and provision of substantial palliative at any occurrence.
Commending the frontline health workers for their efforts so far, the Red Cross in the state appealed to all Nigerians to adhere strictly to the globally approved measures in the fight against the virus. From Oka, Uchenna Nwekoyo, NTA News.
And as Muslims the world over observe the Ramadan fast, Obianu Junwosu sampled the opinions of some faithful in Owerri, the Imo State capital, on how they are coping with the annual religious exercise in the face of the coronavirus pandemic.
Ramadan, as one of the 5 pillars of Islam, is a period when Muslims across the globe engage in fasting from sunrise to sunset. It is also a period of prayers and spiritual rejuvenation observed annually. For Muslims in Owerri, the Imo State capital, just like their counterparts across the country, the 2020 Ramadan is peculiar in view of the coronavirus pandemic, owing to the measures being taken by the federal and state governments to curtail the spread of the virus, one of which is the ban on religious gatherings. Some of the worshippers say they resorted to praying in their homes as against the practice of convergence in the mosque. This, they say, is to enable them abide by the social distancing order.
The Sultan also contemplated that the mosque should be closed, no night prayer, no 5 times daily prayer, no tahajjud night prayer. So everybody should do it in some various homes.
They commended the federal government for their commitment to the fight against the global pandemic.
Traditional prayers that we always observe is not achieved anymore, just to make sure that the state is free from coronavirus.
We pray that our Muslim brothers adhere to it and follow the measure has been directed by the federal government for their own good.
While the effort to stamp out COVID-19 continues, the people are appealing to all to observe the safety rules put in place to curtail the spread of the virus. In Owerri, Obianu Junwosu, NTA News.
And that is it from Enugu. Nationwide continues with Habiba in Abuja after this commercial break. Do stay with us.
The number of the COVID-19 cases in Nigeria is increasing daily, with many more tests ongoing. The battle of testing, isolating, treating, and attending to the affected persons rests heavily on the shoulders of our health workers, constantly putting their lives on the line and at risk to contain this virus, save and protect the lives of millions of Nigerians. To these health workers, we at the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, on behalf of millions of Nigerians, say a big thank you for all that you have done and are doing. To the security agencies enforcing the lockdown and every other frontliner, we say thank you for putting your lives on the line to save ours. There is no amount of words that can quantify our gratitude. Thank you. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Hello everyone, hope you are keeping safe.
by washing your hands with soap or using sanitizers. Stay at home. It's the responsible thing to do. And whilst you're taped, you can do anything to keep your body and your mind together. Grow a beard like me if you want to. But please, let's stay at home. It's the responsible thing to do.
The following guidelines for eased lockdown, as announced by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, are effective from 4th May 2020 in Abuja, Lagos, and Ogun states. For public spaces, the following are mandatory: improvised face masks, temperature checks, hand washing facilities and hand sanitizers, physical distance of at least 2 meters, no sporting activities and mass gathering. On travel, these are prohibited: passenger flights, interstate travel except essential services, movement of agro products and petroleum products. Note, there will be mandatory supervised isolation of returnees for at least 14 days. For markets and offices, neighborhood markets are to open 3 times a week from the hours of 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Banks and financial services are to open from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Government offices are open only to staff from grade level 14 to 17 between the hours of 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Corporate offices and private sector are open to business from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Schools, churches, mosques, clubs, bars and gardens remain closed till further notice. COVID-19 is real. Take responsibility and stay safe.
I just don't understand this coronavirus thing. Is it real?
See, coronavirus, known as COVID-19, it's a global problem and has killed thousands of people in China, Italy, Spain, UK, US, and other countries around the world.
Okay. Now, why are they saying that we should stay home?
Because if you go outside and get in contact with someone who is infected, you become infected and then come back home, affect your family. That's how it happens in other countries.
Now, please, help me explain what this social distance is all about.
See, as we are now, the virus travels through the air and by touch. We must maintain 6-foot distance at all times.
Oh, so it's not by washing my hands with soap and water or hand sanitizer that is only important?
Washing of our hands regularly is very important. But we must come together and fight this virus like we did Ebola. It is our responsibility to each other.
And you're still on to Nationwide on NTA. Primary healthcare centers across the Federal Capital Territory are now fully equipped to attend to the medical needs of pregnant women, nursing mothers and their babies. Director of Disease Control and Immunization of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Basio Posen, disclosed this while on an inspection tour of facilities to conduct vaccination as part of activities marking the African Vaccination Week. Elizabeth Omori tells us more.
Nigeria, over the years, has improved its routine immunization intervention to fight communicable diseases, and the African Vaccination Week helps to strengthen immunization services in the health sector. A visit by the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency to primary healthcare centers within the FCT was quite fruitful.
It's not everybody that have the opportunity to come out for this because of afraid of this deadly disease that is going on. But I just thank God that my baby have completed it 9 months, because it can keep them away from this disease, especially all these measles and other sickness. The government is trying, and the staff of this hospital is okay, and they are putting on their best.
Since the outbreak of coronavirus in Nigeria, reports show that a percentage of nursing mothers and pregnant women have refused to seek Medicare at primary healthcare centers. This, the agency says, is not in the interest of the mothers and their babies, especially as it concerns vaccine-preventable diseases.
Visit your nearby PSC facilities that are nearby to you and get your children immunized. Get yourself treated for the basic ailments. The hospitals have been taught basic protocols that they will make sure that you are safe, and they themselves, they are also safe. Don't be afraid of saying you will get to the hospital and you pick an infection. The facilities are safe for you to visit.
With over 240 primary care facilities in FCT, it's expected that these facilities that are closest to the community should be performing optimally. One-on-one client counseling, one-on-one client attendance, one-on-one treatment and immunization of vaccine are all taking place there.
The African Vaccination Week is set aside to create awareness on the importance of immunization. In Abuja, Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
And the Nigerian Center for Disease Control has certified the testing laboratory established by the Bayero University, Kano, to support other existing ones in the state. NCDC lead laboratory surgeon Dr. Abubakar Jaffa disclosed this during an inspection visit to the Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital, where the second laboratory is situated. Lawa Salau Inua reports.
The testing laboratory, established under the Center for Infectious Disease Research by University Kano, is to complement other laboratories for prompt response to COVID-19 patients in the state. This development, Nigeria Center for Disease Control says, will go a long way in addressing the delay in the release of results and provide capacity to test about 180 samples.
It is very essential for people to get tested. Before now, it was only 88 tests that are being conducted at the AKTH lab, but this is an addition of another 180.
The state task force can start making arrangements for bringing samples here to be tested. This will facilitate the testing of the sample being collected. This will help a lot fighting the pandemic.
Meanwhile, the Faculty of Engineering by University Kano has also joined other tertiary institutions in providing an emergency ventilator in curbing the health burden posed by COVID-19. The next step is to test the prototype on animals before it can be used on COVID-19 patients across the country. Lawal Sallau Inua, NTA News.
The candle spirit in ensuring self-protection is given priority in the fight against the novel coronavirus pandemic is taking center stage by the leadership of the Radio, Television, Theatre and Arts Workers Union, RATAU. This followed distribution of safety palliative to media workers in the FCT to promote personal hygiene and observe regulatory guidelines. Abakar Usman Akwanga reports.
Continued involvement of the media as one of the frontline agencies in the fight against coronavirus pandemic is the reason for the distribution of these protective kits.
The growing waves and increasing impact of coronavirus pandemic to human lives, especially frontline workers, has remained on the front burner of stakeholders in the media industry. Worried by the situation, RATAU is taking the bull by the horn to mitigate chances of its members being exposed to contracting COVID-19 in a bid to accurately inform the public on update of the pandemic.
As a politicians and policymakers find ways of mitigating this threatening epidemic, media practitioners, among whom are members of our union, deserve special commendation for the reportage of COVID-19 despite the hazards associated with it.
And we monitor it to make sure that this thing gets down to our members.
Comrade Afo James is a staff with the Nigerian Press Council and says she observes safety measures from home to workplace and appreciates the intervention by RATAU.
I'll make sure that it's on me. I'll wear it, then in some few minutes I'll go and wash my hands.
The union is also making case for more support that will motivate its members to stay alive and carry out daunting national assignment.
The measures is in tune with the efforts of RATAU in safeguarding the lives of its members while in line of duty. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
Many thanks, Abubakar. And moving on, one of the most wanted kidnapping gang leader operating in Benue State has been killed by the troops of Operation Wellstroke. A statement by the Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General John Enenche, indicates that the criminal is alleged to be responsible for several kidnappings, armed robbery and assassinations around Katsina, Ala, Ukum and local government area of the state. Major General Enenche knows that the troops deployed in Zaka Bim for rapid operations eliminated the criminal in an encounter and recovered arms. And the Council for the Regulations of Engineering in Nigeria, COREN, wishes to commiserate with the government and people of Imo State on the collapse of a 6-story building under construction where many lives were lost. The Council activated the Imo State Engineering Regulation and Monitoring Committee led by the Vice President of COREN on an assessment visit to determine the root cause of the collapse. The Council seeks the cooperation of the Imo State government in the investigation and the task of ridding the state and the country of this unwanted waste of lives and human resources. And weather is next on Nationwide.